You're watching a special edition of Newsnight looking at our exclusive interview with Nigeria's President, Muhammadu Buhari. Well, the main opposition, People's Democratic Party, PDP, is criticizing Buhari for apparently taking credit for several projects started by the PDP while in power. Well, the party is accusing him of not having any legacy projects and issuing threats to Nigerians rather than healing the nation. Well, the party says Buhari bungled the interview by being evasive rather than addressing the issues confronting the nation as millions of Nigerians had expected him to do.
Instead of addressing issues and providing direction for our nation, Mr. President exposed his cluelessness, paucity of idea for development, while making very provocative statements that could embolden terrorists as well as serve as recipe for further division and violence in our country. It is on record that President Goodluck Jonathan also took on a massive expansion of our international and domestic airports across the country, built and commissioned railway stations, just like former President Yar'Adua also embarked on road projects, particularly from Abuja. It is instructive to state that where projects were yet to be completed, it is only a natural occurrence for any Nigerian elected as president to proceed in the national interest to complete such projects. The expectation of Nigerians is that in an interview like this, Mr. President should give honor to those who conceptualized and built these projects to near completion. On the issue of devolution of power, state police, and restructuring, it is disappointing and heart-rending that Mr. President was evasive, he was dodgy, and had no direct response to these burning issues, even in the face of a national consensus for the amendment of the 1999 Constitution to address these pertinent issues. From the interview, it is clear that President Buhari has no legacy project to point to except infrastructural backwardness, false performance claims, covering of corruption, destroying of our national institutions, wrecking of our economy, dividing Nigerians, as well as reckless borrowing with nothing to show for it.
All right, still with us is the former governor of Imo State, Achike Udenwa, and we're now joined by our analyst, Mahmud Jega, in our offsite studio. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Governor, for still remaining with us. I think on Monday, when we had a guest from the Northern Elders Forum, he made an allegation saying that Southeast leaders, political leaders like yourself, are not speaking out loud against the stance of Nnamdi Kanu, or IPOB if you like, that it seems to be an acquiescence to the ideals or whatever Nnamdi Kanu stands for. Is that what it is? Why are you not speaking? And if you are, nobody seems to be hearing you. And what is your stance? Well,
we've been speaking. The leaders have been speaking. You see, the problem we have is this. There is a vacuum. And then Nnamdi Kanu just stepped into this vacuum. You see, when you have the youths frustrated, demoralized, and any person who seems to offer a leadership to them, that person becomes a hero. And that is how Nnamdi Kanu became a hero. But I must tell you, frankly, most of the Southeast leaders are not in any way in support of a secession or so. The majority of opinion of the leadership is, let us have a restructured country. A country where everybody will feel proud of. We are not just interested in an enclave called Biafra. But the issue is that, yes, as the suffering continues, as the marginalization becomes more apparent every day, the other side is winning more converts. Because what you'll be asked is, okay, what do they have for us? What do they have for us? Are we going to continue suffering eternally like this?
So what are you recommending as the way forward? Yeah, of course, Mahmud Jega is there.
Mahmud Jega, let's bring you in on this discussion. let me just even follow up from where the former governor stopped. On the devolution of powers, the president seems to allude to the fact that the major problem was with the attitude of the governors to the local government. They don't get what is due to them. That was the thing the president said. He gave an example when they're supposed to get maybe 200 million, they give them 100 million and pocket 100. And Shehu was just saying there that the governors are the cause of most of the problems you're seeing concerning insecurity at the state level. What's your opinion? What's your comment on that?
Well, you're right. What the president seemed to be saying is that the present three-tier federal structure itself has not been given the chance to work. That effectively the lowest tier of government, the local government, has been destroyed. Well, essentially by the state governments, because he said they appropriate most of the money. There are other things he didn't say. For example, many states went without local government elections for many years and instead appoint sole administrators, and to that extent they turned the system into a unitary instead of a kind of a federal one. So that was a serious point, and the president seemed to be implying that why do you want another structure? If we restructure and adopt another structure, whether it is regions, whether it is zones or whatever, provided this is what will happen, some powerful executives will not allow the structure to take off and work as is expected under the constitution, then you will still be back to square one. He didn't say it in so many words, but looks like that was what he was alluding. And certainly he has a point about the collapse of local government. And you know, he linked it with the insecurity at the local level, virtually saying if the local governments were functioning very well with their own security committees at that level, many problems such as cattle eating, farmers' crops could be solved at the local level without the situation escalating to the state level or even to the federal level. As he said, he was disappointed that a governor will come to him and say that cattle ate some people's crops. He thought that matter could be solved at the local or even at the state level.
Back to you, Mr. Former Governor. What then would be the way forward? Because the president seems to have thrown the ball back in the court of the governors, saying, hey, you people ran for election, you were voted for, and you're expected to fix the problems within your domains, whether it's security, economy, and what have you. And then we're talking about this issue of restructuring. How will that play out in the face of what the president has said? Do the governors even have the powers?
Yeah, I must tell you that that is besides the facts, the point. Now, the issue is restructuring is a different ball game. The local government is not a federating unit. The restructuring concerns the federating units, which are the states, who have donated their powers to the federal government. Now, the issue is we need to restructure. If we don't do it now, we will let this country crumble. Now, bringing in the issue of local government doesn't come at all. Okay. I must tell you, some of these allegations are not correct. In my time as governor, for 8 years, my local government chairman, all the people who worked under me at the time as local government chairman, many of them are still around. Ask them. The state government never removed 1 kobo from their money. I wasn't involved in their monthly allocation meeting. It was between my SA and all the chairmen. So if we start bringing some of these accusations as a reason for not restructuring, we are very wrong.
Well, that was probably
what kind of restructuring?
Let me get to
I'm saying,
because we just. Yeah. Let me just get, so because we have less time here, that's what we're trying to avoid. All right, Mahmud, just before we round up this interview, when talking about inclusive government, especially getting the Southeast into security positions, he said he doesn't know any of the security heads now in power, that those occupying it is based on a succession order. What do you make of that? Because particularly they were referring to bringing the East inclusive into his government.
No, the Constitution itself unmistakably demands the reflection of federal character in political or civil service or all other appointments. That has been the principle at least since the 1970s. What the president said, for example, that he appointed the current army chief based on merit because he was the commander of Operation Lafia Dole, which is the largest ongoing military operation, fine. It's understandable if you make appointment on that basis. But the thing is that overall, appointments have to reflect federal character in order to create a sense of belonging. Of course, there is a limit maybe to what you can do. Just because a state is not well represented, you cannot bring somebody from outside the military and make him a GOC, certainly not. But as much as possible, and it requires bending over backwards to accommodate all sections of the country in appointments. Sometimes it is painful because some people who think they deserve the positions may not get them because other people have to be brought in to balance the equation. But that is understandable. It is for the good of the country and in order to establish peace and stability in a diverse polity.
That very quickly.
When I heard Mr. President said that, I saw it as a very weak defense. Weak defense in the sense, the army I also know a little about, they are in courses. Like the present Chief of Army Staff is, I think, course 37.
Yes.
And that means those on 35, 36 who are still in the army, most of them will retire. Others will go to defense headquarters. Now, this is the third Chief of Army Staff the President is appointing. The third since he came into office.
I wish we had all the time in the world there.
But
Achike Udenwa.
yeah,
Sorry.
what I'm trying to say is that
time.
it is hard for me to believe that nobody from the Southeast has been able to qualify to be Chief of Army Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Chief of Naval Staff. It's not possible.
All right.
We'll
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much for being on the program. Achike Udenwa, former governor, of course, analyst, Mahmud Jega there.